Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode with me. I'm OzoneB here in the Vault Hunter single player world. I'm sitting up here with my new auto traders to give you an update on what's been going on in between episodes. These guys have certainly been trading up a storm. Sometimes maybe a little too good. I don't know. It's kind of a love-hate relationship, quite honestly. As you can see, I've added a third auto trader here and reconfigured things a little differently. Initially, I had two guys trading cakes, relying on my large stock of emeralds to get me through, but that ran out very quickly. So then I added a guy over here trading carrots to get more emeralds, and that worked out just fine for a little while. My problem is these guys keep upping the prices of their cakes. Now right now, we're at 1 emerald per cake. But I checked on these guys one time and it was up to 16 emeralds per cake, which is highway robbery. So my big stash of emeralds that I had, well, it disappeared very quickly. So I added another guy in the middle trading carrots for emeralds. And they're doing quite well at keeping up. But when this guy decides to start getting greedy, he uses up all the emeralds pretty darn quick. Now I've tried to fix this by putting him through the zombie conversion process a couple more times. And while it does reset every time I put it through, it doesn't seem to really stick. Basically, his trades don't stay at 1 emerald per cake. Eventually, they just keep on going up and up and up. And I think a big part of that is that these guys will trade many more times a day than you can normally trade with them. I think they'll trade maybe 4, 5 times per day, which is a lot more, but it triggers the price increase logic eventually. So eventually I run out of emeralds, I run out of carrots, etc. Oh yeah, I did an overnight AFK session here to try to get this all built up, and I came back to no emeralds and no carrots. So it is working, but it is not fully self-sustainable, and it gets a little out of hand sometimes. It is better than manually trading for all those cakes, though. So I guess I just got to keep an eye on it and put up with the little idiosyncrasies that we've got going on. I do have a couple projects that I want to get done today. The first one deals with the old vault altar. I've been stocking up on crystals, and honestly, I'm getting a little tired of the manually feeding the vault altar. There are ways to automatically feed it, and I want to get one of those set up today. Another project is with the soul sand that this latest recipe wants for the vault altar. Need 5,000 soul sand, and back here, I've really only got 2,000. So there's a neat trick for how to get certain resources, soul sand being one of them, using botania. And so I want to show that off today too. Another thing that I want to really try to do deals with catalysts. I've played around with some catalysts in the past, but I've never tried to make a really good catalyst crystal for a vault run. You know, they have certain common names like ICC and SLL and CRP. CRP stands for copious, rich, and plentiful, which is what you want for finding ores. SLL, which is super lucky, luckier, and lucky, which is what you want for chests. And there's a few others. I've made a few crystals, and honestly, I really haven't done anything with them. So today I want to try to make a super crystal and then run that vault. And somewhat related is I want to make some vault keys. You know, for those treasure rooms around in the vaults. I've never been able to open one of those. And well, if you've got something like a super lucky, luckier, and lucky type of crystal, those are the ones that you want to be using those keys in. So if we try to make one of those crystals, I want to make some keys to go along with it. So hold your horses. There's a lot to get done. So I'm down here in the botania room to show off one of the latest things to try out, and that is the conjuration catalyst. This block essentially lets you just duplicate items, just straight up duplicate items. It only works on a limited number of items though. When you put the conjuration catalyst below a mana pool, you get access to all of these recipes right here, and they basically just duplicate items. So you throw 1 coal on and you get 2 coal back. Glowstone, gravel, netherrack, quartz, redstone, snowballs, and soul sand, as well as a bunch of leaves, but we don't really need the leaves for the altar. No, it's this soul sand recipe that I'm wanting to show off at the moment, but as you can see, there are 4 pages of said recipes, and of the ones that we care about for the altar, maybe 10 that we care about. So you put the conjuration catalyst right below a pool of mana, and then just throw it in there. And as you can see from the pop-up, it's got the soul sand, check 2 soul sand underneath it. So we throw in some soul sand, and look, there we're getting 2 soul sand. Throw in a stack of soul sand, and we get another 2 stacks of soul sand. Each time you do this, it uses up some mana out of the mana pool. But honestly, it doesn't seem like that much mana is being used up. It's a little manual in process right now. I'm sure there's a way to make this go faster, but I think this is pretty cool. There is another block which is the first step of the conjuration catalyst, which is the alchemy catalyst, and this does a whole lot of things as well. One of the cool things you can do with that is to convert stone to andesite using the mana pool. And then you can convert andesite to diorite and diorite to granite and kind of cycle through all of the various stone types. It also works with all of the log types. You just keep throwing one type of log in and you get another type out until you can get the kind that you want. So these jungle logs, which are a little harder to get, are really easy to get from birch and an alchemy catalyst. So I'm going to have to make one of these too and swap them out whenever I want. I don't know about you, but I find that to be a pretty cool mechanic, you know? And, well, I'm glad to be able to have it because I get tired of going into the nether for soul sand. And if you've got unlimited mana, well, it makes it really easy to just duplicate those resources. And now, boom, the crystal is done. Easy peasy. Easy peasy in that I don't have to leave the base and go find it in the nether. But it doesn't change the fact that fulfilling this vault altar recipe is still kind of a pain. The amounts of these items is actually fairly tame, but some of them can be really big. When it comes to these blocks like netherrack and cobblestone and dirt, it's not unusual to have 12 or 15,000 needed in that vault altar, which is a lot of clicking and kind of annoying. I've done so many of these crystals that the novelty's worn off. I'm kind of tired of it. So next thing is I want to try to set up automatic crystal population, automatic crystal fulfillment. And unfortunately, refined storage doesn't make that easy. There are other mods where this is a lot more easily done. And there's a really great video that I'm going to link in the description that goes over how to set up each one. The refined storage setup, I feel, is a little terse and confusing, but I think I got it, so I'm ready to give it a shot. I will warn you, though, it's expensive because you need another controller. Basically, we're going to set up a whole second refined storage system that is completely separate from this refined storage system here, but still linked to the same drawers. It's going to be a little confusing to explain, so I'm going to get right into it. First, though, is the expensive part. We need an ecopog in order to make another refined storage controller. Now, pogs I've got quite a few of, and they're no longer a challenge to create. The ecopogs, though, they still hurt every time I do it. But there we go. And 1 second controller later, we are getting closer to going. And hey, look at that. My personal energy thing is filling up the controller with energy, even while it's in my inventory. That's pretty cool. So I'm back here in the power room where I can do all the behind the scenes work because I really don't want all of this extra stuff to be visible in my main base. Now essentially we're going to be setting up a completely separate refined storage network back here. So I have to make sure it doesn't touch any of the existing refined storage blocks or the cabling going to the rest of the system. So I'm going to focus on putting it in this part of the wall. Now this whole thing works because the vault altar is tied to me as a player. You can have multiple altars all placed down and they'll show you the exact same recipe. So we demonstrate this by placing an altar and then placing a crystal on it. And you can see this is the same recipe that I've got outside. See? But what's the point? The point is that by setting up this altar back here to be able to receive items, we will still be able to interact with and feed the altar out in the main part of the base as well. Since not everything is stored in drawers, there will be times where I have to manually pull things out of refined storage and feed them to the altars. Because this system, while it's using refined storage to do the work, is really only pulling the items from the drawers system. And the way that that actually happens is because we're treating the vault altar as an external storage device. And so we have an external storage interface from refined storage here that we're going to attach to the side of the altar. So the refined storage system is going to treat this as if it were another storage system and push things into it. Now we also need a controller to make that all happen. And that controller needs to be powered, so there we go, hooked up to the power and totally separate from the rest of the system. Now, as far as the drawer system goes, the drawer controller is over here, and you only need one of those for all of the drawers. But there is a drawer controller slave, which kind of acts like a controller and is much easier to make, honestly. This is overall pretty darn cheap. So by placing one of those controller slaves against the drawer system and then attaching an import bus against it, we can then hook that up to the controller right here, and it will start sending things into the system. Yeah, so right now it's filling smooth stone into the vault altar automatically. And when it gets done, it'll go on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And as you can see, it's really quite slow. The whole system can be sped up quite a bit by adding multiple drawer controller slaves onto the system. So as you can see, with more controller slaves, the amount that is going into this is going faster and faster because each one of these controller slaves is sending one item through the importer. So you can make the whole thing pretty fast by just adding more and more of these. Now, of course, the thing that really is going to speed it up is adding speed upgrades into each of these importers. So now they've all got some speed upgrades and it's going a lot faster. There we go. Moving on to the next thing, I hope. Yeah, bones. The next thing is bones, and that is getting filled up automatically as well. So with 4 of these, that's pretty good, but I can do a little better. I think I got to restructure things just a little bit, but the bottom line is you want the refined storage system to have no storage of its own. So you don't want a disk drive, you don't want any of these storage blocks. This is just a coordinator, and it's pulling everything from the drawers through these drawer controller slave blocks and importing them into the system, and then treating the vault altar as an external storage and exporting to it. At one point, I tried to hook up an exporter into the main refined storage system, and it didn't work like I wanted it to. It did work as long as I set a filter for the current items that the altar wanted. Then the refined storage system would push those kinds of items into the vault altar, but I really didn't like the idea of having to update the filter all the time, and it wasn't truly automatic. This is the best thing we have to something that is truly automatic. And again, it's really only pulling from the drawer system. So like this wither skeleton skull, I don't have enough of those that I've needed a drawer for them, so it's not automatically filling the wither skeleton skull. But if I add a drawer somewhere for a wither skeleton skull, it could work. So the wither skeleton skull is still a manual completion. Now, once we complete this crystal and pop another one on, it should automatically start filling it out. So there we go. Let's start looking at it. Yep, the squids. The squid sacks are automatically getting filled out. And honestly, it's not going to take too long. It would go faster if I had stack upgrades on one or more of those importers, but you actually don't want a stack upgrade on every single one of them because it'll only export a stack at a time if it's got a stack upgrade. So when the count gets down to less than 64, well, then it will just stop. So you need some of those importers to not have stack upgrades if you have the resources to make them. But stack upgrades are pretty darn expensive, so I'm just sticking with 4 speed upgrades right now. And there we go. It's all complete except for the dragon head, which of course is not in a drawer. Honestly, this wasn't that hard, and it's something I feel like I should have done quite a long time ago. But I'm glad to have it done now. I think I'm going to go put some more slave controllers on in order to make it even faster. I'll be right back. One thing to note is that when I ejected that crystal in the other room, this crystal also popped off and gave me the vault rock back. The whole system is still working just fine, but it did eject the vault rock, and if you're not back here looking for it, well, it could despawn. So I think that happened to me on another one, so just be careful. Just remember, the first time you eject the vault crystal, the vault rock on this altar is going to get ejected as well. And back here now I have 8 slave controllers with importers set up for the drawer systems. Most of them have speed upgrades, not all of them do, but it will make the whole thing go fairly darn quickly. Don't you love some good automation? I know I do. But as for this system, I'm pretty happy with it. You know, it's pretty complicated, it's behind the scenes, I don't have to really do anything, and as long as the items are stored in the drawers, it's all good. The really expensive part is needing a separate controller, and that takes an ecopog. So thank you Zoofology for your videos showing how to do this, on this and every other storage system out there. It's a really good video, and if you guys haven't seen it, definitely go give it a watch. This guy needs more subs, so go help him out. Ugh, cocoa. I haven't made a farm for that yet. I guess that needs to be added to the list today too, maybe. Well, this is interesting. It looks like cocoa beans can come from pumpkin seeds if I have one of these alchemy catalysts. I do certainly have a lot of pumpkins on hand, so maybe I'll try that. So now with the alchemy catalyst and underneath this mana pool, instead of the conjuration catalyst, and I've got a whole bunch of pumpkin seeds, we can just pump those right in and get a bunch of cocoa seeds. That used a fair amount of mana. It actually emptied out this mana pool, but the sparks down below are feeding it, so we're doing all right. So that's a lot of cocoa beans that we just got, and all for just some pumpkins, which I've got thousands and thousands of. So that's pretty neat. Again, you can keep throwing these in and keep changing them. So as you can see, this one will take cocoa beans and turn them into grass seeds, which doesn't sound like a very good trade to me. As much as I like making my farms, that was pretty darn easy. I'm glad I figured that part out. So the next thing I want to focus on is getting one of these special crystals made. I've got a few crystals that I've already used catalysts on, including some that give me copious and rich. Basically, before I run a vault, I take the crystal and check all the catalysts that I have on hand. And I'll only run it as a random crystal if I don't get any really good modifiers on these catalysts. But I haven't ever tried to grow the crystal with more than one catalyst. And honestly, I don't have that many catalysts on hand. So the first order of business is to make a bunch more catalysts so that I can fill out these decryption tables. And there we go. Now all the decryption tables are filled out with catalysts. This one only contains static modifiers, no randoms at all. So these are the things that I'm going to be looking at if I get to a point where none of the randoms work out. So I definitely think it's time to start with this copious one right here and see if we can find one that is also rich. Well, we got plentiful as an option, but those are interesting. Any riches here? Nope. Rich, no riches. I would have thought that having a lot more of these catalysts would make it a lot easier, but no, it's really not. Let's try my other copious and see if we can get one that gives us rich on that. Plentiful and fast. No rich there. And no rich there. Yep, not as easy as I had hoped. So let's go for one of the others. Let's try a rich and see if we can find a copious. Because, you know, I really like my ores. Nope. And nope. With this one? Nope. It seems like my efforts to try to make a CRP aren't going that easily. So now I think it's time to try some randoms and see if we can get one of those super lucky, luckier, and lucky type of crystals. So I'm trying to start with super lucky. That seems to be the rarest and the one that gives the most benefits. So I want to start with that one first. And it looks like we got a combination. We got a super lucky vulnerable slowed on this crystal. But let me see if I can find something that's maybe better. Aha, here's another one. Super lucky fast and weakened. I like that a little bit better than the other super lucky combo that we got. So let's grab that and make it work. Well, I don't think we can go wrong with personal space, and hunger's not that bad. So let's try adding that and see what we can get when it's all able to be re-rolled. All right, I think this is a good combination to keep trying to grow this one. Simple and tired. Tired gives us mining fatigue, but we're not going to be doing a lot of mining if we're going for a chest vault. So let's go for luckier. We got lucky, which I can get lucky at any time with this crystal right here. There we go. I can get lucky at any time with this crystal. So we need luckier, luckier, luckier. Well, maybe we should take lucky and crowded and keep on rolling it. This is hard. This is not easy because it's just, I don't know, things are so rare. And see, things are dropping out of here. So the modifiers associated with these crystals can't be added to this crystal anymore. So they just aren't an option anymore. The more things we add to this crystal, the more and more that's going to happen. Ooh, luckier. Oh, locked. Oh, if I have a luckier, I don't want to have to deal with the boss or scavenger hunt. Imagine if we got the scavenger hunt and it was locked and we were building this super lucky crystal. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I just don't see being able to get luckier again if I were to take something else. Like this easy fragile would be a good way to add to the crystal and try to get something. Would I be happy with super lucky and lucky? I think I probably would. I think I don't need to make the perfect super lucky, luckier, and lucky crystal. Well, I was saving these two. The giant and the trivial are basically good modifiers. These have bad modifiers with them, and they're not so bad, but These are just basically good modifiers, so I can easily add one of these two to the crystal, and let's give it another shot. Let's add giant, luckier, unlucky, and slowed. Well, that's kind of that's kind of just plain rotten, honestly. We're taking away some of the luck in order to get more luck. I think luckier is +2 and unlucky is -1, so the unlucky would counter the lucky that we've already got on there. So this would end up being just super lucky and luckier. I kind of just don't like building up crystals like this because you get so many negatives. We got hunger, we got mining fatigue, we got crowded, we got weakened, and now we're getting slowed as well. But I think that's what we're going to have to do. I think that's how it's going to have to happen. So now I'm looking around just to see if there's any more easy, simple, good modifiers that can be had here. Safe zone is really good because we're going to be opening a lot of chests and none of them will be trapped. So I do like this combination. So I think this gilded rotten makes a lot of sense. If we're going to be trying to open a lot of chests, we really want to get gilded chests in there as well. So, and rotten doesn't do anything for me right now. So let's throw that on there and see if we can get maybe another decent thing. Horde and daycare. That's actually really good. I've already got giant on here. I think daycare would take over, but that's not a negative thing, all things considered. Sure, let's throw on horde and daycare on this as well. So we got gilded horde, super lucky, and luckier on this crystal. That is, that's a big crystal. That's a lot going on there, as well as a bunch of negatives of unlucky, slowed, fragile, rotten, mining fatigue, or weakened. There's a lot of bad stuff there too. You know, I think that's a pretty good crystal. I think I'm happy with that. There's a lot going on there, but the point is to try to open chests. So I think I'm happy with that. Now, if I'm going to be running a vault with a bunch of luck, trying to open chests, I think it's important that I get to the treasure rooms, and I need some keys to do that. I've been able to find 9 key fragments in all my time here on Vault Hunters, but that's enough for 2 keys. But I also need to make a key anvil. The key anvil is just an anvil with netherite, so not that hard, because I should have plenty of netherite in order to make that, yep. But okay, there's a key anvil. All right, now I need a key mold, which is going to take some echo. So now it's time to get the echoes. I don't keep those in the system. And yeah, boy, all the stuff that I've been doing that used echoes and echo pogs, well, now I don't have enough echoes. So I guess it's time to fortune up my echo ore. Again, since the last time I fortuned up these echo ores, oh gosh, when I made the original controller right here, probably 10 episodes ago, I've only found 3 echo ores. So let's warm up the old super fortune pick and pray that luck be a lady tonight. All right, 22 echo, and that's more than enough to make a couple of these key molds. There we go. Boy, echo is in short supply. I've only got 14 left, and that's period all I've got. Now we need our key pieces and the key molds. That should be easy enough. So there's 1 blank key and 2 blank keys. Now how do I make a key? There doesn't seem to be any JEI on what you need to do with a key. How do you make one of these keys? I know it takes player gems, but exactly how, I'm not sure. All right, well, that seems to be a shortcoming of the mod pack. I'll have to be right back after I do some research. All right, well, that wasn't so hard. I knew the key anvil was involved in the construction of the final key. I just didn't know exactly what you put with it. And that is one of the clusters of one of the player gems. So basically, one of these clusters is going to be 8 gems and a perfect black opal. Whatever player gem you wanted to use makes a different kind of cluster, which makes a different kind of key. So looking at my resources here, I have the most of bomagnite and ashium. So I think those are the 2 keys that I'm going to try to make up. So there we go, 1 ashium cluster and 1 bomagnite cluster. And now we go back to the key anvil, put a key here. Oh, well, see there, it looks like a cluster, doesn't it? I did not get that part initially. All right, 1 ashium key and 1 bomagnite key. Whoa, buddy. That was a lot of work, and that was expensive. That kind of hurt to do, quite honestly. So these keys I'm going to stick in my backpack here, so I've got them with me all the time. And that way I also don't accidentally throw them out when I'm sorting through the garbage too. But sadly, this crystal is going to have to wait for another day. It seems my eyes were bigger than my stomach for this episode, because I still have to take care of getting this statue named after one of the commenters in the last video. So that is very important and must be done. As for the crystal, well, consider this to be a big cliffhanger. We're going to have to run it next week. Sadly, I didn't get another Omega statue in this episode. I haven't been running as many vaults recently, but I greatly appreciate all the comments that everybody leaves. Behind me is, of course, the Dropper of Fate, so let's see who we get out of it this time. Drum roll, please. Click. And we have Poon Poon. Finally, my friend. Finally. Poon Poon played with me on the Unknown Empires server and has been trying to get this statue named after him for quite a long time, honestly. So I am glad that your name was finally chosen by the Dropper of Fate. No more 5-ups. Now you are Poon Poon. There we go. Looking snazzy as always. Thanks for the comment, Poon Poon, and I hope we get to play again together sometime in the near future. Well, this was a jam-packed episode, and I got an awful lot done. I really hope you enjoyed coming along with me on these adventures. Obviously, my eyes were bigger than my stomach in terms of the planning for this episode, and I couldn't get everything done. We'll finish it up next week and find a few more things to take care of as well. So thanks so much. Remember, be excellent to each other, and I'm out.